Hey, what's going on? Danny Matta here, founder of PT Biz, and today we're talking about the 3 most common mistakes I see in cash-based PT clinics. When we look at pricing is one of those things that can make or break your clinic. And not just you, but as you scale past yourself, getting your pricing right and getting it dialed in is incredibly important. So we're going to talk about 3 mistakes that I see that you can either make sure you're not doing, or if you're doing these, start to change these right away so that they don't become a bigger problem for you as your clinic grows. So let's talk about number 1. So number 1 is that you are grossly undercharging for what you do. This is probably the most common mistake that I see. And frankly, a lot of this has to do with our confidence in our ability to sell, as well as our confidence in what people see value in, right? Early on, it's very easy to undervalue yourself because number 1, you may have never had any sort of association of somebody paying you money for what you do. You may be coming out of an insurance clinic where you never had those conversations with people. You had no idea what they were getting charged. And oftentimes they don't know what they're getting charged either, right? You may have had a cash rate or something at the clinic that the front desk handled, but you never really had to have those conversations. So what most people do is they look at, well, what was the cash rate for the clinic that I was working at? And in most cases, from what I've seen, it's anywhere between $100 and $150. And I've talked to some people that are, in network clinics that have moved over to more of a hybrid approach that are clients of ours. And I asked them, I was like, well, why did you pick $120? And they said, well, that's what roughly I was getting reimbursed for a Medicare evaluation. So I just figured it'd be in the same area. I guess somewhat logical, but honestly, far too low for someone wanting to run a low volume clinic and not necessarily see high volume, right? And see multiple people per hour. So if you are charging anywhere between $100 and maybe $175 for what you're doing, it's just going to be too low. Some of this depends on your area. If you're in a big city, a little city, what part of the country you're in, all kinds of things, your niche. But for instance, let's say you're in the Atlanta area, which is where I live. This is an area that absolutely can sustain $200 to $300 a visit. We see this with clients that we work with. We see this with the clinic that we owned for a decade and sold. It is a market that sustains that. Now, that means Charlotte, Orlando, Tampa, these comparable sized markets are absolutely in the same ballpark. When you go into bigger cities, let's say it's a DC or a New York City, Chicago, something like that, you could even go up above that. And in many cases, you may need to because the cost of living there is more, your expenses are more. I was just looking at a lease for one of the clients that we have, and they're in an area where for a 900 square foot space, they're looking at $3,500 a month for rent. And this is like the cheapest that they could find. And they're in a very highly populated area, very expensive area. So that means they're going to have to charge a good bit more to be able to afford that overhead, to be able to afford to bring staff on as well. So the number 1 mistake I see is that you're grossly undercharging. The vast majority of people need to be at $200, if not significantly above it, depending on your marketplace. So number 2, the second thing. The second big mistake that I see with people that are selling packages is that they are selling packages that are way too small. Okay. So it's very common to see people that are selling packages that are like 3 visits, 5 visits, maybe 6 visits, somewhere in that range. Now, if you have someone who is very acute, that could be all you need to see them for, right? But most of the people that we're seeing are dealing with chronic problems, or they're dealing with, subacute on chronic issues to where maybe it's a re-exacerbation of a back injury or shoulder problem or neck problem or whatever is going on. But normally it's going to be people that are dealing with kind of at least one issue, if not multiple, and a chronic issue they're trying to resolve. I got news for you. You're not solving that in 3 sessions, right? You might be able to make a symptom change, but you're not actually making a true long-term change in 3 sessions. And for them to really get a long-term benefit to what you're doing, they need to actually put a lot more work in after those symptoms are resolved. Like, we know that. They don't know that, right? So when you sell them into like a 3-visit package or something, all you're doing is basically selling symptom resolution, and then it just comes back eventually, and they think you're not all that great at what you do. So the other thing is, whatever the lowest packages that you have when you bring other staff on, that's what they're going to sell the most of because they're the most comfortable with whatever the lowest price point is. And you can't blame them for that. Like they don't come from a world where they've had to sell things and it's not their clinic. So they're going to sell to whatever the lowest common denominator is in the clinic. If it's a 6 visit, they're probably going to sell the most 6 visits out of any other package option that they might have. So bumping your packages up or limiting the number that you have to maybe 1 or 2, but making those bigger package options and making it very simple. If this is an acute problem, just go session by session. No need for to do a package. If this is a chronic problem, like the vast majority of people that come in here, they should do one of these bigger packages so we can commit to really solving a problem with them, right? So selling packages that are too small is mistake number 2, and it's a killer for your average visit rate. Okay, number 3, not having a payment plan in place for packages. So this is something that we didn't do for a very long time. And it really didn't, it didn't really make sense to me to do it. I didn't know that I should. But when we look at the way people make decisions, people typically make buying decisions, not necessarily purely on price, but on what that's going to cost them on a monthly basis. It's how they're budgeting for their finances. We're all the same way, right? So if you're going to go buy a new car, or if you're going to buy a house and you're looking at a mortgage, you're not really looking at the total price as much as you're looking at what the monthly cost is. Now, obviously the total price is important, but that can be it's variable based on other factors like interest rates. So if an interest rate is 7% like it is now versus an interest rate is 2.5% like it was a few years ago on a house, the payments can be very different. So you may have to look at a house that costs a lot less because the monthly payment is different. Well, when people look at our packages, they may be looking at the total, but more than anything, they're looking at what's this going to cost me on a monthly basis because cash flow might be an issue and they might want to spread that out to help with budgeting. So not having some sort of payment plan in place, especially for things that are going to be 2 to 6 months, bigger packages going to cost thousands of dollars, you're leaving conversion on the table. And the likelihood of somebody, not paying you is very low. The compliance side is very high, especially if you're, honestly, like really doing a good job with people and you've built a relationship with them and they're making progress, which is the ultimate goal that we want, right? Is to get people better. So if that's happening, you're not going to really have a lot of issues with people not paying or having to chase down payments. I can count on one hand how many times that's happened to us, with thousands of people that had come through our clinic. So, but what it does is it eases the cash flow burden for people. So, if it's like a $2,400 package and you can spread that out $800 a month over 3 months, now all of a sudden that looks a lot easier for them to digest than $2,400 upfront, right? So adding in a payment option where they can spread it out, you're essentially self-financing, will increase your package sales percentage in a meaningful way and allow your staff to work with people for the duration of time that they need to really get them the outcome that they want. And we know that if that happens, the likelihood they stick around and want to do ongoing work with us with really more like health problems and wellness problems that they're working on, performance problems, performance goals is much higher. So it's a win-win because we get a chance to help them solve a long-term problem. We also get our business in a place that puts us at a higher likelihood of a continuity sale, which means we also then get to help them live a high-performance, pain-free life and actually achieve other physical goals that they have outside of just getting out of pain. And that is a fantastic place to be. It's actually the most fun part of working with patients, in my opinion. Getting them out of pain and all that stuff, it's what we do. It's our bread and butter. But being able to help them actually run a 10K that they've always wanted to do, or to be able to go climb some mountain that they wanted to climb, or whatever their physical goal is, that's huge. And that doesn't really happen unless they've actually seen massive progress with you on the front end. So in summary, number 1, grossly undercharging, huge problem. You got to stop it. Just stop today. Just stop doing it, right? Charge more, charge what you're worth. You should say a number out loud that makes you feel uncomfortable. That's what you should be charging. And if it's $100, please stop. You're way too low. Number 2, stop selling tiny packages, okay? 2 visits, 6 visits. These are ones that you can actually just remove. I'd prefer that you just have a 10 and a 20 if that's what you want to do. And you're just working with more sort of chronic problems like that. And then just going, visit to visit with people that are more acute. That way, whoever your staff members are, when they come on, especially the junior ones, they're not just selling to the lowest common denominator when they should be working with people for a longer period of time if they have more chronic problems. The last thing is add in a payment plan, especially if it's like longer, amounts of time or a bigger purchase amount. So things are like 3-6 months in duration. It really will help you a lot, be able to convert more people, for them to have less of a burden as far as cash flow is concerned, and to be able to commit to the things they need to commit to in order to solve their problem. So add in a spread out payment option where you're cash flowing that for them, and that will help with conversions, especially with larger packages. So hope this helps. Super tactical, 3 simple things. Change your pricing. This makes a very big difference in terms of your overall revenue and your profits. So get your pricing right, and that will help your clinic in a significant way. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you in the next one.